Let me tell you about two brothers. Same city, same parents, same school. For a long stretch of their adult lives, they even earned almost identical salaries, both hovering somewhere around $85,000 a year. Same starting line, same income, same life, more or less on paper. But when they each turned 60, something stunning showed up in the numbers. One brother had just over $1.4 million saved. The other, a little over $200,000. A $1.2 million gap between brothers with the same salary. And here's what makes this story different from every other start early lecture you've ever heard. The gap wasn't created in their 20s. It wasn't their college choices or their first jobs. The entire difference, every single dollar of that $1.2 million gap, came from decisions made strictly between the ages of 40 and 50. 1 decade, that's it. If you're anywhere near your 40s right now or heading toward them, this is the video I genuinely wish someone had made for me sooner. Because what I'm going to explain today isn't a motivational speech, it's a structural truth about how wealth actually works and why your 40s might be the most financially powerful decade of your entire life. Here's what most financial content does wrong. It treats your 40s like the consolation prize decade, like this awkward middle chapter where if you haven't already built serious wealth, you missed the boat and now you're just catching up forever. You've probably heard the classic story about the 25-year-old who invests $200 a month and ends up with more than someone who starts at 35 with $500 a month. And that's mathematically true. Compounding early matters, no one's disputing that. But that framing does something quietly damaging to people in their 40s. It makes them feel like the story is already written, like the meaningful chapters are behind them. So they either give up and spend freely because what's the point, or they stress constantly about lost time without changing anything. Neither of those responses serves you, and both of them are based on a misunderstanding of what's actually available to you right now. Because the 25-year-old in those examples, they're usually investing $200 a month, a very reasonable number for someone early in their career, managing rent, student loans, maybe a young family. But that same 25-year-old, if they're not intentional, often coasts. Life gets busy, the savings rate stays modest, and time passes without the numbers growing the way they could. Meanwhile, someone in their 40s, if they wake up to what's actually possible, has access to something the 25-year-old doesn't, and it changes everything. So let me explain what I mean. There are 3 specific financial forces that only converge in your 40s, not in your 20s, not in your 60s, your 40s. And when all 3 show up at the same time, it creates something I think of as the wealth ignition window. Studies consistently show that most people hit the highest income of their careers somewhere between 45 and 55. By your early 40s, you've spent 2 decades building skill, reputation, relationships, and professional leverage. You're not entry-level anymore. You're not even mid-level. You're the person people call when something actually needs to get done. That translates to money in ways that have nothing to do with hustle and everything to do with accumulated value. If you invest aggressively starting at 40, your money still has roughly 20 to 25 years to grow before you typically access retirement funds. At a 7% annual return, which has historically been a reasonable long-term expectation for diversified index investing, $1,000 invested today becomes about $3,870 by the time you're 65. That's nearly 4 times your money. The math still works. It's not the same as starting at 25, but it's not nothing. It's actually a lot. Your 20s and 30s are often financially chaotic. You're building a life from scratch. Every few years, something major shifts. New city, new partner, first home, young kids, childcare costs, furniture, cars. The spending is unpredictable because the life is unpredictable. But by your early 40s, for most people, the big structural costs have settled. The kids are older. You're not furnishing an apartment every 2 years. Your lifestyle, while more comfortable, is more knowable. That knowability is financial gold because it means you can actually predict what you need to save and plan around it with precision. peak income, remaining compounding runway, stable expenses. When those three things are present simultaneously, you have a window that truly doesn't exist at any other point in your financial life. And most people either don't see it or they're spending it on lifestyle upgrades because they feel like they finally deserve it. That's exactly what happened with the brother who ended up with $200,000. He wasn't irresponsible, he wasn't reckless. He got a promotion at 42, bought a nicer car, upgraded the house, took the family on better vacations, and told himself he'd save more when things settled down. Things never really settled down. The window closed, and a decade later, the math told the full story. Now here's the part I really want you to sit with, because this is where the story changes. There's a concept I'd call contribution intensity, and it's the mechanism that lets a 40-year-old late starter actually outpace a 25-year-old who's coasting on small savings. Let me give you the honest math. A 25-year-old investing $200 a month for 40 years at 7% ends up with roughly $525,000. That's genuinely impressive. Time did the heavy lifting. Now, take a 40-year-old who starts late, feels behind, but decides to get serious. They invest $1,500 a month for 25 years at the same 7% return. They end up with approximately $1.2 million, more than double the early starter, despite having 15 fewer years. How? Contribution intensity. The 40-year-old invested more than 7 times as much per month, made possible by their higher income and more stable life. The 25-year-old had time on their side, but not the income to deploy seriously. The 40-year-old didn't have unlimited time, but they had capacity, the ability to actually fund the machine at scale. This doesn't mean starting at 25 is wrong. It's still the best time. But it does mean that if you're 40 and you're feeling the weight of lost time, you are not looking at a closed door. You might actually be standing at the most powerful door of your entire financial life. You just have to walk through it intentionally. And here's the psychological piece that nobody talks about enough. The reason most people in their 40s don't take full advantage of this window isn't lack of money, it's that wealth building still feels abstract, while lifestyle feels immediate. A nicer kitchen feels real, retirement in 20 years feels theoretical. The brain almost always chooses the concrete over the distant. That's not a character flaw, it's just how human brains are wired, but understanding it means you can design around it. So what does this actually look like in practice? Not in theory, in real life for a real person. The first thing is to find your real number, not a rough guess, your actual monthly surplus, what comes in, what goes out, what's left. A lot of people in their 40s have no idea what this number is because income has risen gradually and spending has quietly risen with it. This is called lifestyle creep, and it's the quiet killer of the wealth window. Knowing your real surplus is the foundation for everything. The second thing is to automate contribution intensity before you feel it. If you wait until the money is sitting in your checking account to decide how much to invest, the answer will always be less than it could be. The brain finds reasons to spend what it can see. Set up automatic transfers to your retirement accounts or brokerage on payday. Make the investment happen before your lifestyle sees the money. This isn't discipline, it's architecture. Third, in your 40s in the US, you can take advantage of catch-up contributions to retirement accounts. Once you're 50, the IRS allows you to contribute significantly more to a 401k or IRA than younger workers. That's not a coincidence. It's a policy built around the idea that the decade before traditional retirement is financially critical. Use it. And fourth, and this is maybe the most important, resist what I'd call the peak income temptation. When you start earning more, every part of your environment encourages you to spend more. Better neighborhood, better car, better everything. And you deserve good things, that's not the argument. The argument is that there's a difference between spending more and spending proportionally more. If your income goes up 30% and your savings rate stays flat while your spending absorbs the full increase, you just converted a wealth opportunity into a lifestyle. The brother who ended up with $200,000 wasn't irresponsible. He wasn't reckless. He was just spending every raise he got. I want to come back to those two brothers for a moment, because when I imagine telling that story to the brother who ended up with less, I don't think he'd feel shocked. I think he'd feel something quieter, like a slow recognition, a sense of, yeah, I knew. At some level, I knew there was a window. I knew I could have done more. I just kept thinking there was more time. And that's the most human thing in this whole story, not the math. The waiting, the belief that the right moment to get serious was just a little further ahead, when the kids were older, when the mortgage was lower, when things finally calmed down. Here's what I want you to take from today. The point of no return isn't a threat. It's actually a gift. It's the recognition that right now, wherever you are, there is still a version of your financial future that looks dramatically different from the default one. The window isn't closed. For most people watching this, the window is open. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to have started at 22. You don't need to overhaul your entire life by next Tuesday. What you need is to stop treating your 40s like the consequence of your 20s and start treating them for what they actually are. The decade where the three forces align, where income is highest, where compounding still has time to work, and where life, finally, is stable enough to build something real. Progress beats perfection. It always has. The brother with 1.4 million wasn't a genius. He wasn't lucky. He just took the window seriously. You still can too.